recording now. So welcome everybody. Maybe we'll get Sailor in here. Tice, did you text Sailor?
Haley,
Yeah.
Okay, so she knows. But I'll finish up my text to her. But really, the big point in this is just a couple of things, I think. At least this is what I'm thinking. Maybe Mark has something else in mind. But A, we just want to hear from you guys, see how your year has gone. It seems like most of your school years are over, at least in the normal sense. Maybe you will be continuing on online. But we just want to catch up with you guys, spend some time talking, and then really just see how you've grown in your faith over the course of this year, or maybe some things that have been a struggle for you this year. And so we can start. Mark, is there anything you wanted to add to that?
No, I thought part of the reason for recording it too is I'm sure there are a lot of people in church who would love to hear from you guys, and I would guess that most of you are aware we've been putting videos up on YouTube, on my YouTube channel, and so with your permission, we would probably put it up on there. And it could be really interesting for people who, you know, care about each of you guys and would love to hear how your year has gone. So it's not just for the sake of reconnecting you guys with each other, but kind of reconnecting you to the church in some way too.
Yeah, that's a good point. So as long as you guys are all okay with this being recorded, we've already started. So if you want to get off now, you can, but now you're already in it. So we'll just start. On my screen, Corey is the person on the top left, and then it's Tice and Taylor and then Haley. So just go in that order. Sailor just texted me back and says, I just woke up, so I look like I'm dead, but I think she
We
said,
all do.
Yeah. I'll say join the club. Okay, so Corey, you can start.
All right. Looking back on this year, what struck me about Simpson is that it was a lot easier than I thought it was going to be. It was a lot easier than high school. I think I was pretty well prepared, having the education that I got in high school, to go on to Christian college. It was an interesting experience. You know, Simpson has a pretty high student athlete population, a pretty high international student population. So it was really a lot different than RC in that not everybody came from a church background, which was a bit of a challenge because, you know, you have a lot of different worldviews, a lot of different personalities and identity groups coming together and interacting. So it was a challenge for me to kind of get out of my bubble, and I hope I did that a little bit. But it was also great to have Carrie and Trevor, my sister and my brother-in-law, there with me. It was great to have family there, to have a place to go and get a nice hot meal and, you know, just enjoy some family time. And also another thing I really enjoyed about going to Reading was I found a little OPC church to go to. And the support that I got from the pastor and from Gianna and Braden, who I took along with me, basically, it was really good. It was a great experience to kind of see another side of the Reformed faith, another side of the Reformed tradition. And to find a little population of Reform-minded Christians in Reading, which is not the place that you'd necessarily expect to find them. But it was a really good little hub for me to grow and to be nourished by the Word and by the sacrament every single Sunday. I don't really know what else. It was pretty easy, as I mentioned before. Classes weren't super challenging for me. But they were good. I got a lot of different worldviews coming at me in the different classes. Being that, you know, it's a Christian college up in Northern California, you'd expect it to be really conservative. And it was in some respects, but there was also some, you know, political liberalism coming at me, maybe even some theological liberalism, to challenge my foundation and just, you know, see where I stand. And I think that the foundation that I was given by our community, by our church, was really good. It held true.
Yeah. Good, Corey. Thank you for sharing. It sounds like you've had a pretty broad experience this whole year, and you've adjusted to it pretty well now. And it's,
Rise and shine.
Yeah. And I'm guessing you're still planning on going back next year when school reopens?
Yes, definitely.
Okay. Okay, good. Hey, Sailor.
Hi.
Welcome.
Thank
So,
you. This is
if you
the
don't,
third time this week I've woken up to a text saying we have a Zoom meeting right now.
well, I'm glad you decided to join ours. I feel
Yes.
honored to have you. Do you know how to use the gallery view, right? So you can see
Yeah.
everyone all at once? Okay. Okay. So what we're doing right now is just having everybody go around one at a time, sharing about their experience this semester or the school year, really, and also things that they've been learning about from the Word or about their faith. So next up on my list, I don't know if this is the same for everybody else, but that will be Tice.
Okay. Well, I had a little different from Corey as I thought college was a lot harder than high school. It wasn't easy at all. Not just the academic portion, but the whole, being thrown into adulthood part. Like that, I don't know, just having to like deal with all the problems myself, as in like loans or like getting food for myself, or I don't know, being on top of everything on my own. It's very different. It's not completely different, but it's new still, and that's the hardest part of me was the whole, having to deal with like somewhat adult problems in the college life. I mean, school. I mean, I feel like it wouldn't have been as hard also if I weren't in Northwest Iowa. I think that's another hard part for me is the whole completely different uh different world it is over there. It's really different, and I don't know. It took a long time to get used to. I don't think I'm still used to it. I'm very, very, very happy to be home. Let's just say that. Um, I liked. I did. I found a church too. It's an RCA church. It was very, again, different. Everything in college is different that I experienced, I'm pretty sure. Like, it was a lot more of like a progressive church, not what I'm used to, not what I would necessarily prefer, but I still really enjoyed it because I enjoyed like the people I met from my church and enjoyed like the things we did. That's always been my favorite thing about Ripon and Emmett Valley is the community and how every time I can go to church, I can like feel loved by everyone around me and like at least have someone to talk to no matter where I go. And I didn't really have that at first at my church. And then I joined what's called a life group, which is similar to grow groups for us. Actually, it's the exact same thing. And I joined one of those in our church, and we met every Sunday, and it was really nice to get that sense of community that I love so much from home. And eventually I started talking to my profs more and became like closer to like my professors, which was somewhat like RC in the sense that I was really close to all my high school teachers. And yeah, there's like a lot of new things. I don't know what all to say. I'm not as good at speaking on the spot as Corey is, but
No, I think you
So
touched
I'm
all the
curious,
bases.
Dice. I'm
Awesome.
curious, how was it so different? How was Sioux Center so different than Ripon? Like you said, it's so different. Like what would
well,
you
I
say
think
is?
I think for me the number one thing was like the weather and the I mean, the so different part. I mean, people are still really nice there. It's still like a little like CRC pocket and like a Dutch pocket. So that in that part, it's the same as Ripon. But for me, it's all I don't know. It's cold. It's really cold there. And when I got home, I was like, wow, it smells really good at home. Wow, everything looks great. Wow, people are walking around. And I just yesterday I went to the bank. Like I just went to the bank to go to the bank, and I saw like so many people that I knew on the way. I talked to one of my high school teachers. I talked to Megan Boss. I talked to Brandon Badgema. I talked to like all sorts of people. Yeah, it was weird. Just like doing one small trip and seeing everyone you know, and then I'm somewhere else in the country. This is for everyone. Like just leaving Ripon, you don't see anyone you know, and I don't know. For me, it was just like the fact that it was the cold is the worst part. The weather and the fact that it smelled bad and the fact that I don't know. There's different food everywhere, different culture even. The way people talk is different. It was funny. Yeah. I felt like I was in a different planet.
Taylor, did you relate to any of that?
I related to the cold thing, that's for sure. I mean, you can already tell. I'm sitting outside enjoying the sunshine, doing my homework. Definitely not something that I felt in Sioux Center. I definitely felt trapped inside. That was hard.
That's funny that your guys' experience is that it was just so cold. I remember living in Florida and coming back to California and thinking, yes, it's finally cold. It's finally cool. I can wear a sweatshirt. I'm so excited.
The funny thing is, this year was a mild winter, too.
Oh, wow.
Everyone would say that. They'd be like, "Oh, you're lucky you got the warmest winter." I'm like, I was freezing. What are you talking about? That's the coldest I've ever experienced.
California kids, we don't know how to handle that sort of stuff.
I guess so.
But Taylor, you're next up on my list, so I'll just have you share about how your year has been.
Okay. Well, for me, I'd say I wouldn't call it the transition to college easy, but it wasn't really not manageable either. I felt especially with courses and stuff, I feel like my high school classes prepared me well, because my senior year I took some harder classes and stuff, so that was tough in high school, but I feel like the transition, it was pretty much the same level of difficulty, so I feel like I'm still being challenged in my education, but it's not beyond what I can bear. I feel like it's the right level of challenge for me,
okay,
which is really good. So yeah, school's been pretty good in that sense. Yeah, I've had a little bit of a harder time finding a church that I like. I've been going to church and trying out different churches and whatnot, but between there's a bunch of CRC churches and Reformed churches in Sioux Center, but between Dort and then there's another small Christian college 15 minutes away, a lot of times it just feels like no matter where you go, you're just one of a bunch of college students, so it's hard to really you have to really make an effort to be plugged into the community. But thankfully, Dort has had a lot of opportunities on campus that you can be a part of to get involved in Christian community there, between worship nights and small groups that you can join. I actually was in a small group this past semester led by Brittany, so that was fun. Yeah. Yeah, so there's lots of opportunities on campus too that Dort has given. So if you put yourself out there, there's places to get plugged in. So that was cool. One challenge for me was definitely being away from my family, so far away. I had some family local Corey did, which was nice. If I needed to get away, I could go to my grandparents or whatever, but it's not the same thing as living at home. And when you've had a rough day, you can come home and talk to your parents about it or whatever. But it's been also a cool forcing me to kind of grow up a little bit. And also I'm realizing that I had a tendency to turn to my family when I should be turning to God sometimes for certain things. So it was also a way for me to grow in my relationship with Christ, and that putting him first and not idolizing my relationships with family or friends as much.
Yeah, that's one of the big benefits of moving away as an 18-year-old, really having to force yourself to grow up in ways that you wouldn't necessarily have to if you were still at home. So I can sort of see that same story and phenomenon happening now with the three of your stories, and I'm sure I'll hear it with Haley and Sailors as well, just being forced to grow up. And that's a good thing. Learning to become adults, that's something that we all need to do, and you guys are doing it. And so it's difficult, but that's the growing pains of life. How are things socially at school with making new friends? And I guess, Matthias, you could answer this one a little bit too.
You go ahead. It was
I'll have Taylor start. How about that?
okay. It was kind of hard. It was really good at first, and then relationships I had initially made, I don't know, they did it was not anyone's fault, but they sometimes just kind of I don't know, they kind of didn't, some of the friendships I had initially made kind of faded a little bit as time went on, which it wasn't any one person's fault or anything. It's just how things go sometimes. But that was kind of frustrating and hard, because it was hard. Yeah, because we have all these friends back home that we're connected with already. So then it's weird coming somewhere new where you need to start at square one with relationships. So you want to have these really close friendships, but you can't start being really close. So it takes time to build friendships. So that's kind of the one frustrating thing with like having to come home, is that like that friendship building process that you like start freshman, sophomore year kind of gets slowed down a little bit when you're not hanging out with people there.
Yeah. Yeah, it sort of throws a wrench in the works. And I can remember my seminary years. That's when I finally moved away from home and had to start fresh. So that's how I can sort of relate to you guys. I made a lot of friends the first few months, and then by the end of the whole thing, I still like knew those people and would talk to them, but they weren't my core group of friends. I was sort of in emergency mode, and I was just talking with everyone and making friends with everyone. And then eventually it sort of more organically began to happen. And by the end of my experience, the friendships that I had still have lasted now. I still am in touch with people. And some people that I met right away at the beginning, I'm still Facebook friends with them. I still see what's going on in their lives and stuff, but we're not exactly super close. And that's okay. It's not like every friend you make has to become your best friend. Tice, what about you?
Yeah, a similar thing as Taylor. We were actually we were in like the same like core group of people the first semester. And the thing about that is like you can't expect to like make a group of friends the first semester and have it last the whole way, because that's kind of like you scramble to find a group at the beginning of the year, and then that's who you're with. And it felt pretty forced the whole time, so it was only natural that it wouldn't last. And all these friends I made my first semester, it's not like we all hate each other. Like it's the sort of it became like a bunch of relationships where like if you see them around campus, you'll say, hey, maybe talk and have some small conversation. Yeah, I had a similar thing with Taylor also, where she mentioned she like would go to her family when she had problems after school or after a long day or something. And I had a similar thing, but with like close friends. Like I had like close friends that I would like, pretty much share my problems with, or I would like go over and just talk when I needed them or something like that, just to have them like have that company that I desired. And naturally when I'm across the country, I can't have that. They're far away. And I would like call friends from home all the time, and I would always focus on keeping like that relationship with my friends at home. I didn't really focus hard enough on making good relationships at school. And it wasn't until like the week before spring break when I finally felt like, oh, I'm making some good friends. This is nice. And then during spring break, one of them was like on this group with me called PLEA, like stands for Putting Love into Action. It's like service project thing. One of them was in a group with me, and I was like getting really, really close with them. And I was so excited to go back to school and, make these good friends. And then, this whole outbreak things goes on, and I get kicked out and go home. And it's like, it's always bittersweet because I get to come home and talk to I guess I can't be near all these friends I want to be near because I'm still quarantined. But other than it's still nice to be home, and but at the same time, it's like these other friends I was so excited to meet and get to know better they're all of a sudden away from me now. And that's the most interesting dynamic about like making friends at school elsewhere, is no matter what, you're going to be away from friends, because you'll make some good friends in college and you'll be away from your friends from home, and then you'll be home and you'll be away from your friends at college. So it's like constantly bittersweet.
Yeah, that is true. And so it just makes it even more essential for us to really try to figure out which friendships that we have are really worth keeping and valuing, and trying to put time into them even when we're across the country. So one of my friends from Florida I still keep in touch with. We talk a few times a week, even if it's just through texts, but sometimes we'll call. And it's been really helpful for keeping those friendships alive and really pushing each other on in our studies and in our walk with the Lord. So even though we're not together, we only see each other, like at this point, the average is like once every other year. We're still able to keep one another pursuing Christ. And it's a really healthy, good thing. Okay, Haley, you're on mute, I see. So you'll have to unmute yourself, but you can share with us about your year and about things you're going through and how you're growing.
So I share academically, spiritually, and then
socially. If you want to do it that way, you can. Yeah.
Academically, the classes, well, they weren't what I was expecting. They're not necessarily bad, but especially the freshman year, I didn't really get classes that I wanted to take this year because I had to get the ones that I wanted to get out of the way.
Yeah.
But they're certainly not what I was expecting. And the fact that when you go into those classes, people don't have to choose to sit by you, and that was wild. I was surprised. And there's people around when you go into the lectures and everything. But otherwise, it's been okay. And spiritually, I did find a church eventually. I went with my friend from here to go find one every Sunday, and we eventually found one. She found a different one, but I found one where it's non-denominational, and it's a bigger church than Almond Valley, to say for sure. And it has like a little group meeting for all the college students before church actually starts, which I could say I really appreciate, because it's like a way you get to know the other college students in your community, and you're not just going to church unknown. And they have us sit by each other during the service and everything, and that was really cool. And socially, it's actually the first few weeks it's as if everyone already made a group the moment they got there, and I came too late. So I hung out with two people that are from our school, but eventually we kind of fell out because we don't have the same major. The two of them do, but I don't have the same major. And then I eventually found the friends, and then it increased, because as long as you keep on getting yourself out there, and if you want to try to have friends, you'll have friends. It's actually pretty cool about this place, because you can meet anyone at any time, and it could just end up going somewhere that you didn't expect.
Yeah. Have you felt yourself like having to put yourself out there more than you would normally do if you were back in Ripon?
If I was back in Ripon, yeah, because I feel like here I didn't really have to try that hard. Everyone knows everyone. You like grow up with those guys around you, and there's not as many people. There's not even as many people. So if I wanted to see the same person again, I would have to make plans with them.
So it sounds like a pretty tight-knit college community then. Has that been all across the board? Have you guys all felt that at your schools? Like everybody kind of knows everybody because it's not a huge school?
Yeah.
Like Fresno State was 23,000 students. I don't think any of your colleges are quite that big.
At Dordt, there are like local schools like Unity Christian has so many people that, like, if you're from Unity Christian, you like automatically like know half the Dordt or something. I mean, it's pretty nuts.
That makes sense. That's kind of unfair. But yeah, thank you for sharing, Haley. It sounds like you've been having a pretty good year, getting all those boring classes out of the way, the ones that you're not so excited about. But hopefully you've been diligent, and now you'll pass through them and get to go on to the classes that actually matter to you. I know that was kind of hard, taking the GE classes that you just have to take to get out of the way. I remember taking math and suffering through math, thinking I'm never going to need to use statistics. And I really have never used statistics in my adult life. That's just part of how it goes. You become a whole person, which is good. Okay, last but not least, Sailor. How's it going, Sailor? How's your year? How have you been growing?
Good. I agree with Haley. I'm taking all general eds, and they're terrible. They're so boring. So boring. Especially first semester was like senior year of high school. It was like the same exact classes. It was terrible. Hated it. I'm taking really boring classes now too. So class-wise, it's awful. I had so much homework this spring break. I had to write 2 papers and a speech over spring break, and it's terrible. Not done yet.
What classes are you taking?
I'm taking.
I should have asked this to Haley, but
Oh, this semester I'm taking speech and research writing, which are the two I hate. Then intro to psychology, foundations of Christian life. Oh, and history / appreciation of art for my fine art requirement, which is also really terribly boring.
Yeah, I could
The
imagine.
classes are kind of rough this semester, but I have like filled in my time, and I'm kind of bummed about being home. Excuse me. Because I finally I'd gotten a job, I was doing things and like in and out, and then all of a sudden it's like, nope, you're going back home, and I'm like, oh, right when I was figuring life out this semester. So that was kind of bummed. I found a good church. So the closest CRC to Vanguard is 30 minutes away with no traffic, because I checked at it's like 3 a.m, so obviously there's no traffic at 3 a.m, and I'm like, oh, okay, cool. Can't do that, especially because first semester I didn't have a car. So I actually became a youth leader to the on-campus church. It's an Assemblies of God. It's kind of a lot different, really different than what I've known. But I lead junior high. I'm a J High leader. So that's been really nice, because I got a really close-knit church family through that with like the other leaders, and then just like automatically everyone already knew me when I go to like the main service. It's like, oh yeah, you're like a leader. I'm like, yeah, I am. So I have a really good community there.
So it's on campus, but it's not just for college students. It's for
it's on campus. It's basically right next to it, but Vanguard uses it a lot because it's a big place that we can hold almost like all the students for like chapel. We use it for chapel, and there's some classes in there because we just can't fit everyone in what we do have. So it's on campus, but not affiliated with Vanguard.
Okay.
And anyway, it's its own thing, but we just use it. So,
Gotcha.
So when I didn't have a car, it was really nice. So it's also kind of a bummer. I know everything's been online, so I've still been able to like do stuff through that, but kind of coming home and not being able to actually go to the church and has been kind of sad. Socially, it's been pretty good. I miss my friends already. So I miss my roommate. My roommate's probably one of my closest friends down there. We're gonna room together next year, actually, too.
That's awesome. Didn't you move out of a different situation the first semester, and now you have so that worked out really well, it sounds like.
It did. It really did. I'm really like blessed to have, especially her. My other one, we're not as close because she's like never in the room, so I never get to see her. Because I started going to bed like really early, and she doesn't come in the room until like 4 a.m, and then leaves at 8 for her class. And I'm like, oh my goodness, how are you alive? But yeah, I made good friends. I have a really good like tight-knit group of friends, and
That's
yeah,
good.
it's just all around really good.
And it's Costa Mesa, so no wonder you didn't want to leave.
yeah, definitely. What Tyson was talking about, big culture shock. Culture shock.
What was the culture shock for you going there?
Probably just like how like everything's just super contemporary, especially with like worship and like chapels. I was terrified. It's Pentecostal. It's affiliated with like a Pentecostal church. Yeah. That's all I'm gonna say about it.
I can't imagine how that would be different than our church.
Oh gosh, yeah, crazy. Just really, really different. Yeah.
But you're seeing the breadth of the body of Christ, the bigness of it. And, it may make you feel uncomfortable. Maybe you love it. I don't know. But learning that, there are other Christians out there and they do things differently. That doesn't mean we should just go into pure relativism, obviously, but it's good to be understanding of other Christian traditions, and then also knowing, well, what's the strength of my tradition? What does the Reformed tradition bring to the table? And as somebody who's come from outside the Reformed tradition I can say it brings a lot to the table. But I'm also very interested in other traditions. Haley, I want to go back to you a little bit. Speaking of churches, how would you explain your church a little bit more? How is it sort of contemporary like Sailor's Church, or is it a little more traditional?
I'd say it's more contemporary for sure.
Yeah.
My church's worship is it's it's not what I was used to, especially. People go in the aisles and start to do their worshiping. They go up front. The sermons are really good, and we have communion every Sunday.
That's pretty rare, I would imagine, in most non-denominational churches. Although for a few months I went to a non-denominational church in Orlando when I first moved there, and they did communion every week too. It sort of sounds similar to your experience, Haley. Yeah, Mark, did you have anything else you wanted to ask or say?
Well, it's interesting to hear about the different social experiences of the students, and I was thinking it's really good. It's hard, but it's really good in that you've all learned more of what it feels like to be an outsider, you know, especially if you're, you know, Haley's a little bit newer to Ammon Valley, and so you sort of learned how to enfold into our youth group at Ammon Valley and our church and things like that. But definitely Corey, Tyson, Taylor grew up and were baptized in our church, and Sailor, probably you came when you were maybe in middle school or so, right? And so it's really good to get that experience of being new somewhere, and you realize, I heard in a few of your answers, like making friends is hard, right? And that's true. If you've always been in Ripon and you've always just had your class, you never realized how important friends are, because it's like a fish not realizing it's swimming in water a little bit, right? And it's good to be outside of that for the sake of the kingdom, because how many people in our world just need those friends? And now you've realized what it feels like. You can empathize with somebody who's alone and is thinking, how am I going to make this work? I don't know who to talk to, right? And that's pretty much the experience of the vast majority of Americans right now, especially if they're not connected to church or if they don't have friends through work. And so it's good to even go to church sometimes with that mentality of, I'm going to try to reach out to somebody who, like, this might be their last chance to give church a try, or just look for a friend, or maybe this is really hard for them to come here, and maybe it was hard for you to go to church that day because you didn't really feel enfolded. So those are all life lessons that hopefully you can kind of hang on to and not forget that feeling of being new somewhere. I was new in a lot of different places, and sometimes I did that well. Like I think that when we arrived at Ammon Valley, we tried a lot harder to get together with people socially, but sometimes I didn't do that well. Like when I moved to Bellingham, Washington by myself, and I didn't know anybody else in the whole town, and I just had a job, and I was like a hermit basically. I just didn't see anybody. I'd go for months without having a meal with anyone, you know, and so that wasn't good, right? But hopefully you've been learning the value of, building that relationship, building a friendship. It takes a long time. I forget which one of you said, wow, I realize how long it takes to really make a friend and how much you have to work at it. And now that's been kind of, the rug has been pulled out from under your feet a little bit with coronavirus. But it's good to continue to try that, though. Like, one thing I wished about my college experience was, I wish I would have worked harder in the summer to stay connected with my friends. And so that doesn't have to be like a lot of phone calls or whatever. We didn't have texting when I was in college, and so that would be pretty different, I would guess, if you could text your friends. But I don't know, even just like trying to figure out some way to connect with them in a meaningful way to keep the friendship going. And even now still, this past summer, we went and camping with my RA, the guy who was my RA in my first year at school, and then he was my roommate the second year. And so that friendship has stayed, but invest in them, because those relationships will impact the rest of your life. Like I said, we went camping with them, and we get together with them, and now he has 3 kids and we have 4, and our kids play together, right? So you might not be, it's hard to imagine that right now at this stage in your life, but those friendships that are built and are strong are really a blessing to you. And hopefully that continues, even though you're all in lockdown mode right now.
Yeah, this is a strange time. And yeah, I think you said it right. We probably all feel like the rug has been pulled out from under us, and you've been sort of cut short on the opportunity to continue making these friendships. But I can tell you one thing that always helped my friendships in seminary when I was moving back and forth across the country for summer was social media. Actually, as simple as it was, that was a simple way of just keeping in constant contact with my friends from Florida, and that helped whenever I would go back to Florida for things to just pick up right where they left off. So I feel weird saying this, but yeah, keep using social media. Don't let it consume your whole life, but use it well. It can be used well. A few more things I am thinking of as we sign off are, I'm just to plug, if you guys haven't heard, Sunday morning services at Ammon Valley are going to be live streamed, so you can watch those in much the same way that you're doing this right now. And yeah, the YouTube channel has been active. Mark and I are posting more videos on there. A lot of those are right now for the high school group. I'm going to post some for the middle school group. But I'll also start posting my adult Sunday school class on there. So if you guys want to watch something a little bit more in depth, that will also be going up starting this weekend. Yeah, I wish we could all hang out in person, but I'm glad that we got the opportunity this morning to just catch up, even if it was brief, through seeing all your little squares on my computer screen. But yeah, it's good to see you guys, and we've been praying for you, and we hope that this is a time for you to grow and not actually just get lulled into slacking off and not doing anything with your time, but making the most of your time. This is an opportunity. This is a challenge. This is a test for us. And so I hope we all can rise to the occasion. So if you ever want to Zoom with me or Zoom with Mark, we do have more time now. So feel free to reach out or to text us, and we can chat in whatever ways we can. But I think that's everything I have to say. I just wanted to hear from you guys and see how you're doing. Oh yeah, also, you probably know about this. I am now a married man. Kind of a crazy story, which I'll spare you all the details, but yeah, coronavirus, that's the basic explanation. We decided we would shelter in place instead. And so,
loving the time of coronavirus.
Yes, exactly. Such romance right there, it's so good. But yeah, guys, have a good rest of your day. We'll catch you later. Thanks for stopping by and chatting with us.
See everyone.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
See ya.